All right, so we're going to get started now. And I want to thank Hashem for giving me another opportunity to get together and share the wisdom of the Menachem and of Nassim. And thank both of you and maybe others for joining us, either live or watching it afterwards, recorded. And we're going to be picking up where we left off last week in this halacha. And just I wanted to give a quick review of what we did so far. And forgive me for looking down, but I took some notes on the Torah that we learned initially, started 3 weeks ago by now. And I just want to take a couple of minutes in case is listening fresh from here, or just to remind anybody that is even with us about some of the main ideas. And we're not going to spend long doing it, but I think it'll be good to have a quick review and get our minds back into our topic. So we started by saying when we started the Torah test 9 in the Likutei Moharan, the concept of tefillah is chiyas, it's life itself. Welcome back, Pamela. We just started. We're going to do a quick review. And tefillah, chiyas is synonymous, life in this world is synonymous with tefillah. And when somebody davens and prays with all of their strength, then he or she will have a hischadshus, a renewal within themselves and their Yiddishkeit, in their relationship with Hashem, and probably also in their life. Then we said in Torah test that there are 12 shvatim, 12 tribes, as we all know, and that's connected, that's equivalent to the 12 mazolos, the 12 zodiac entities. And then we said that each tribe of Klal Yisrael has its own unique nusach hatfilah, meaning its own style, its own format, and it also has its own gate through which their tefillah is able to go up to Shemayim. And we said that when somebody davens down here on earth, that it actually gives strength and vitality and life to the Olam HaMalachim, to the angelic world, and then that energizes them to do what they're supposed to do, because Chazal tell us that no blade of grass grows down here on earth until a Malach in Shemayim comes down and taps that blade of grass and says, I want you to grow. Now it's your time. Well, where does the Malach get its direction from? Well, the Malach gets its direction from us. And we play an essential role in this process. If we're davening properly, then the Malachim have what they need to then go and do what they need to do. And then they can fill the world with all the things the world is supposed to be filled with. Then we said that kasha mizonos of kikriyas yamsuf, and we said kasha zivugo kikriyas yamsuf. Two concepts. Chazal tell us that somebody earning parnasa is as challenging as the kriyas yamsuf, as the splitting of the sea, and someone finding his or her zivug is as challenging as splitting the sea. So on the one hand, yes, it seems like splitting the sea would be a very difficult thing to do, at least for us. And then it seems like earning a parnasa, a livelihood, as well as finding one's soulmate, is also very challenging. But there's a much, much, much deeper connection between these concepts than just the fact that they're both challenging, because ultimately there's nothing challenging for Hashem. So then if that's the case, then it's just as easy, so to speak, for Hashem to split the Yamsuf as it is for him to send somebody their zivug or to send somebody their parnasa. So what's the real connection between finding a zivug, finding a partner, finding your spouse, and kriyas yamsuf, and what's the connection between somebody earning a livelihood and kriyas yamsuf and the splitting of the sea? So Rabbi Nachman explained that kriyas yamsuf when it happened, there were 12 pathways, 12 roads, so to speak, through the Yam Suf, and that's representative of the 12 Nuschos HaTfilah, the 12 Shvatim, that each one had their own path, so that there's a similarity there. And he also said that excuse me, Klal Yisrael, through our tefillos, also effectuate a zivug between Kutchabrichu and the Shechina. So we spoke about this, but just as a quick overview, I'll say that we discussed that there was a component in this world of a reality where we don't see Hashem's presence as clearly as it is. Welcome back, Yanko. Good to see you. And um, that's the Shekhinah in this world is a hidden entity of source to us. It's not automatically seen. It's easy to imagine in this world a world, God forbid, devoid of Hashem, because it's not easy to find Hashem in this world. Contrast that to the Olam HaRuchani, the spiritual world, and Malachim don't have Bechira. They don't have free choice, because Hashem's presence is just that. It's present. The Malachim don't have a choice to do one thing versus the other most of the time. There are times when Malachim can make up their own mind and do. They sometimes do the quote unquote wrong thing, but we'll leave that aside for now. But for the most part, Malachim don't have Bechira. It's people that have Bechira, free choice, and we have that free choice because Hashem has created a realm of a reality that gives us the ability to ignore certain things, to not want to understand certain things, or not have access to certain things. And that reality vis-a-vis Hashem in that reality is known as the Shechina. Shechina Mishochim means to dwell. Hashem's presence in this world is known as the Shechina, and sometimes it's challenging to find that. Contrast that with Kutchabrichu, which is Hashem's, quote unquote, Hashem's presence in Shemayim, where it's clearly obvious. And when we talk about uniting those two things, what we're talking about, as you mentioned one other time, was by elevating Hashem awareness in this world, we create a unity between Hashem's Shechina in this world and Hashem as he really is. Now, again, this is all metaphoric. We're not changing Hashem. We are merely explaining in very broad terms some of the ideas about how it's possible that how a person can live in a realm without truly understanding and perceiving Hashem at all times. We are able to live in such a realm because Hashem created it that way. But Hashem also gave us the opportunity to do things which would elevate that awareness to a higher level. And that's when we create a zivug, a union, so to speak, between the Shechina and Kutchabrichu. So that's how the Kriyas Yam Suf is comparable to the mizonos that a person earns, this parnasa, as well as the concept of a zivug, because the Kriyas Yam Suf has the 12 pathways, and that's the tefillah that brings chiyas to the world, and it also, the Kriyas Yam Suf creates a unity, not that the Kriyas Yam Suf does, but our tefillos through these 12 pathways create a unity between Hashem and his Shechina. We also said that Yaakov Avinu was the embodiment of tefillah. We know, and I may mention this again in context, when Yaakov left home and he was initially running away from Esav, that the pasuk says, "V'yifka b'makom." He came to a place, and he came upon that place. Rashi tells us that v'yifka is a lashon to come upon, to arrive at, is none other than an expression of tefillah. So Yaakov is intrinsically connected to the practice, to the idea of tefillah, as well as being the father of the 12 Shvatim, and each one of those is a perfected form of tefillah in their own unique right. So there's a lot of connection there. Yanko, we're just getting a quick overview right now, and then we're going to continue. We are learning Likutey Halachos, Halacha, Hilchos Nizkei Shchenim, Halacha Hecht, and the Choshen Mishpat. And we're in the middle of the chapter of the paragraph Bays. And if you look on the screen by my pointer, you'll see we're starting over here. We're going to be starting there in a few minutes. Just want to finish a quick review of some of the main ideas. We also said that when somebody davens, however, immediately, no, it's not, no interruption. I was at a breaking point, and that's why I mentioned it. Now I'm going to continue with the rest of the, no, it's fine, with the rest of the quick review. So we also said that Rabbi Nachman pointed out the reality that when somebody davens, when somebody tries to daven, they're immediately beset by a lot of distractions, internal, sometimes external. There's a lot of manias, a lot of obstacles to our tefillah. And as a result of that, it creates an environment that we feel is surrounded in darkness. Because here we know that tefillah is supposed to be the tool that we're supposed to use. We can't wait to daven. And then when we start to daven, we get tongue-tied. We get what comes out feels like it's gibberish. And then we start thinking about everything under the sun, things that we haven't thought about for years. All of a sudden are amazingly interesting to us that we turn around a minute or two later and we say, where did all my davening go? Where did all my tefillah go? And I'm not just talking about Shemona Esrei. I'm talking about even when we're doing Hisbodedus. Sometimes it's challenging if you're engaged in it. It's a little easier in Hisbodedus because you're the one who's writing the words. But even still, a person could be on autopilot about certain things and then turn around and say, what am I even saying? I'm daydreaming even as I'm talking. It's very challenging. So Rabbi Nachman said that situation creates a darkness around us. And as a result of that, we start to have a little bit of a despair situation because we start to think that there's no way out of our situation. We don't see doorways in front of us. Welcome, Teresa, to our shiur. And he said what we need at that point is we need a light. We need a light. And that light, he explained, comes from the Tzohar. The explanation of that light comes from the Tzohar in the Teva, in Noah's Teva, Noah's Ark. Some say that Tzohar was an even, a stone that generated its own light. And some say that the Tzohar was a window through which light could pass, but it wasn't able to generate its own light. Now, why was the Tzohar able to generate? Why was it either a generator of light or a pathway through which the light could go? And why are we using that as a comparison? So we said that Hashem told Noah to give the Teva a Tzohar, and in our context, that Tzohar is Hashem. Hashem only. Hashem is my light. So Rabbi Nachman is instructing us that we have to make a Tzohar. We have to make an opening of some sort in our realm, and with that opening, whether it's an even, which is a self-generating light, or whether it's a window, which is a pass-through for the light, this will give us the light that we need because Hashem is the source of light. So by including Hashem, bringing Hashem into the picture of our life in a real, tangible way, through keyword emes, truth, plays in a tremendously important role here. Through emes, through speaking the truth, what we do is we draw Hashem into the very depths of whatever situation we're in, and kiviyachol, it's as if Hashem turns on the light. 1,000 megawatts of electricity all of a sudden turns on. If a person davens depending on the sincerity of the person davening. With that light, we can actually see that there are doors around us, all around us. The same doors that if we were to, God forbid, do an Aveira, we said those doors would be there to let us go the wrong way. Those same doors are there to allow us to do the right things as well. Excuse me. But we also said that there was a distinction between the even, a stone, and a chalon, a window, because an even is truth at its absolute, whereas a chalon is a window. It doesn't generate its own truth. It has truth. It can allow truth to pass through it, but it itself doesn't have the ability to generate that truth, that light. So we said that when a person is we said that only the greatest tzaddikim have the level of truth that's absolute. The greatest tzaddikim. All other people, including other tzaddikim, including very fine, kosher, straight people, beautiful people, wonderful thing, right? But they only have access to the kind of light that comes through a chalon. That comprises most people. And as a result of that, now we're going to start mentioning some of the things we discussed in the Likutey Halachot, in the Halacha last week. And that is, the main idea was that since it's a fact that we've just established that most people, vast majority of people, don't have the kind of MS perspective that's the self-generating kind, right? That's MS to its absolute bottom line truth, inside and outside, like a greatest tzaddikim. But most people have somewhat of a relative MS. They see, even if they are righteous people in their own right, but their level of MS is their perspective. It's still bound by the constraints that they have as people. But again, even if they're very righteous people, it's still not as great as the MS that comes through the light that comes through the self-generating light stone. So again, what we're trying to do is access something that's much greater than all of us, and that's Hashem's MS. If someone is one of the very few tzaddikim who have the ability to do this with the idea of an even, then they have the right perspective on everything. Somebody who, most people who, even if they would be righteous, who will only have access to Hashem's MS through the concept of a chalon, of a window, well then whatever they're going to be looking at is going to be through the prism of their perspective. And Reb Nosson underscored that for that reason, on a spiritual level, we have a halacha that says we're not allowed to build a window in front of somebody else's window, and we're not allowed to put a door in front of someone else's door, because we don't have any business looking into someone else's window or into someone else's door. Why? Because it'll lead to machlokas, it'll lead to judgment, it'll lead to misunderstanding. Why? Because there's no way that with your perspective of MS, even if you're totally righteous, you can ever truly understand the other person, because that other person is also operating, even if they're truly righteous, that other person is operating also through a chalon. So what you have is two windows facing each other, a person on this in this window, a person looking out of this window. In other words, each one looking from their own MS perspective. And even if they're both righteous, they may not understand why the other person is doing what he's doing. So just to read Yankel's question, this is one of the Yetzer Hara's most powerful weapons to dissuade us from prayer. For sure it is, because when a person feels they can't do it properly, they're not very enthused about trying, and they get discouraged, and they feel like they've missed the mark. Or Yankel also writes, what about when our prayer seems to flow so easily and flow from our lips with the simplest of ease and allow our kavanah to soar? Well, in regard to that, those are beautiful moments, aren't they? And you should take advantage of those. You should ask Hashem, Hashem, Sfasai Tifach. Hashem, you open my lips and let me, and you make those words come out of my mouth. And when it happens, don't ask any questions. Just do your best, connect even more strongly, and let it flow. And maybe that's an Eis Ratzon for you to connect with Hashem even more powerfully and strongly. Okay, so we're going to continue now. I hope nobody minded a quick review. We're not going to do that every time, but I felt we had gone for 3 weeks without a little bit of a review. So let's continue over here in the halacha. So, and then when we're done with this halacha, God willing, we'll be able to start the next halacha. So it says, this is why we're very, very much warned. Chazal warned us, don't make a window opposite another person's window. A person should not look into his friend's window. And he's not only talking about actual windows. We're talking here about, I don't know, the other people, they don't seem to work as hard as I am, but they have more than I have. How come? Or, anything you're going to compare. It's more an idea of comparing what you have, what you do, and what the other person has and what they do. In order, why don't we want to look through these windows at each other? In order that we not damage each other. Because a window through which the light enters, right? It's the chalon, a window is merely a passageway for the or Hashem, for the light of Hashem to enter. Shu bechinas or ha'emes, which is the light of truth, hanal, as we explained above, which is supposed to be lighting up our way, which is supposed to be showing us our doorways for the eitzos, for the advice, for the yeshuas, for the salvations that we need in our life. We go ahead and use that window for something else. It's bad news. So he says, Aser shiyeh keneged chalon. That window, it's prohibited that it should be opposite someone else's chalon. Shu bechinas or ha'emes shel chavero, which is the or ha'emes, the light of truth of his friend. Again, we're not saying here that that if somebody is doing, for example, the wrong thing, that we say, oh well, that's his emes. That's what we're saying here is that from your perspective, you cannot understand why a person does what they do, and all the decisions that another person makes. We have to be very careful about understanding that the mechanism why that's true is because we ourselves, as true as we think we understand the situation, still are only looking at the world through our own window. And a window is very much different than that Evan, than that stone that we were talking about. They shouldn't look one to the other. And one person shouldn't look at the emes of his friend. In order that one shouldn't harm the other. Because that's where all of the damages of the world stem from. What do you mean? So Rav Nassan is saying here that it's from this looking, from this being judgmental of other people and misunderstanding them at best, comes so much machlokas, so much discord in the world. And it's from there that we cause such hezek, such ruination. Somebody was telling me something that somebody saw something that their family was doing. If you want to know what the situation was, they were using the product that looked like shrimp, or actually it wasn't shrimp, it was the beef fry that looked like bacon, but it was the kosher brand. And somebody else concluded that person was frying bacon. As a result of that, they went and told other people. And for years following that silliness, That kosher, righteous family could not shake that bad reputation. It took so long for them to overcome it. Someone just told this to me. So if that other person had just said, you know what, this is a kosher family. There's no way they're eating bacon, or even asked, what are you making? But to look, to draw a conclusion, and then they'll talk about it. It destroys families. It destroys communities. And it creates the gullus that we have. Because gullus, Rabbi Nachman tells us, is from a lack of emunah. And if we had emunah, if we had faith in Hashem, then we would understand that everybody has their perspective and their own limitation as far as really understanding what another person's life is like and their situation, etc. I have not stopped thinking about this lesson in Likutei Halachos an entire week long. Everything, it's so incredible how it permeates every interaction you have. I keep reminding myself, Eliyahu, it's a chalon. You're looking through a window. You don't know. Your perspective is tainted by your own self. Even if I myself am a good person, and I try to be, but as good as I try to be, my perspective is still limited because I'm only working with a chalon. Teresa writes, do not judge your fellow man until you have stood in his place. Pirkei Avos 2:4. Absolutely. And what we're doing here, Teresa, is we're saying, how do we turn this into a tool that we really understand and can use? And we were learning it in the context of the Torah of Tess, chapter 9 in Likutei Maran, and vis-a-vis the halacha of actually building a window, one facing the other. So that's an excellent point. Continuing a little bit more. So each thing is happening. It's emanating from the root that each person has within his own emes. Each one. Because due to the fact that each and every person need melo, it seems to him. It always seems like it's the most sincere people who get into trouble. But it's a sincere person here who's actually saying, it seems to me that shekavanos of emes, that his intent is the right one. The ein chaver misnag be'emes, and his friend is not acting properly in some way. Umishum haschalas hamachlokas, and because of the starting of a machlokas, of a dispute, of discord, chas v'shalom, ad sha'achar kach nitzmach mizesh, and until after that, there sprouts up from this Shabbayim Nishkaim Gemurim, complete lies. So at first it starts out with, a lack of understanding, but at least you're trying to figure out what's going on, and then it spirals out of control. And the next thing you know, people are speaking and thinking and believing complete lies. And they're covering it up as truth. Now we all know that, and the Chavetz Chaim says this also, that no one would ever believe the Lashon Hara if it was so ridiculous and it was totally false. So the Yetzer Hara clothes everything we're seeing, believing, saying in some kernel of truth to give it credibility, and then it passes off all of the lies as being true. It's a dangerous slope. And if you could ever think to yourself, like Teresa said, quoted the Pirkei Avos, don't judge somebody else, but if you think of it like a chalon, the reason why I'm seeing it this way is because of my own, in a sense, I'm not the greatest tzaddik in the world. I'm not seeing things with the light of an Evan. I'm only seeing it through a chalon. Then you can say, you know what? I'm only seeing it through a chalon. I don't know. That's the spiritual mechanism. So as we see that's so prevalent from all of this due to our many sins. He's zero resolved, and therefore our rabbis warn us very strongly, don't make a door or an opening. A window or an opening. That he shouldn't look with his MS, in other words, the looker's MS, Don't look with your MS. She bechinas chalon. That's, I'm going to add the word only, but it's only like a window, right? It's only like a window. At best, it's not 100%. Upesach, upesach ba'emes, and it's like a chalon or a pasach or an opening. Ba'emes she bechinas chalon, with an MS, the kind of MS that comes in the framework of a chalon, pesach shachavero, into the, excuse me, she bechinas chalon or pesach shachavero, that goes through the window or the opening of his friend. Shelo yaziku in order that they shouldn't harm each other, through this kind of looking. You know, I never had this kind of uh, personal and instructive and valuable and tangible and usable concept with regard to the halacha of not creating a chalon or a doorway in front of somebody else's. So I learned this halacha. And this is what it says in the Torah when Bilam was going to curse Klal Yisrael, that he saw them dwelling. We all know the story. He was hired by Bala, and he was going to curse the Jews, and at the last minute he couldn't do it. And one of the reasons why he couldn't do it, well, we'll read it. Rashi, Rashi explains, he saw that their doorways were not facing one to the other. So it occurred to him, right, that he should not curse them. So I always wondered about this, you know, before I learned this halacha. Was it so impressive to Bilam? I mean, Bilam was a pretty bad guy. I mean, he had one eye. He was probably grotesque looking. He was engaged in all sorts of bestiality and disgusting activities. This was not a pleasant human being, to say the very least. And he gets up there on the mountain. He's about to curse Klal Yisrael, and he sees, oh, you know, gee whiz, look at that. Their doorways aren't facing one the other. Wow, I can't curse these guys. These guys are terrific. I mean, did anybody ever wonder, like, what was so impressive to Bilam about that picture? I mean, go ahead, you know, like, really? Because, oh, look, I noticed that their doors aren't facing one to the other. Their windows aren't facing one to the other. So good for them. So their windows aren't facing, maybe they're bad at bad at architecture. I mean, like, excuse me, why was that so impressive to him? Yes, Yankel, I know that Bilam was ordered by Hashem. And you want to know something even more wonderful than that? In Torah Lamed Vav, which I'm learning with my in-person Chabura, Rabbi Nachman gives a very, very powerful, deep spiritual reason why Bilam was actually prevented from cursing Klal Yisrael. Well, that's not for now, but take a look in Torah Lamed Vav, and you'll see an amazing, amazing concept there that Rabbi Nachman presents. But why didn't he want to curse him? So Reb Nassim goes on. He says, "Ki Bilam rotza lahachnis behem ayin ra." Because what was the mechanism through which Bilam wanted to undo Klal Yisrael? Through the evil eye. Actually, it's a good diak because he had only one eye. So he wanted to give them the ayin ra in the singular. I mean, that's still only the expression, but it's interesting in his case that he did have only one eye. Chas v'sholom. So the mechanism through which he wanted to undo Klal Yisrael was with an ayin ra, an evil eye. He Bilam keneged tikkun tefillah, because Bilam was keneged tefillah, the tikkun of tefillah. Any good that could come out of tefillah, out of prayer, Bilam was the polar opposite. He was the keneged tikkun tefillah de kedusha, the proper holy prayer. Bilam was the exact opposite of that. Kishamar Razal, as our Chachamim say, welcome Yehuda. Al pasuk v'yomer Moav al ziknei Midian. On the pasuk that says, Moav said to the elders of Midian. Now, why would Moav be consulting with Midian? Well, Moav had a big gripe against Klal Yisrael and wanted to do them in. on the other, and they also knew that, wait a second, how are we going to accomplish this? They're pretty powerful. They've been wiping everybody else out of their way. What's the one thing that we can get them out? So manhigim shel elu the Midian Niskadel. So they understood that the leaders of Moab, aka Balak, knew that Moshe Rabbeinu had grown up in Midian, and he knew that they would know the secret to his success, how to undo them. So he said, they said, Ein kocho ela b'peh. His power comes from nothing other than through his mouth, through tefillah. Af anu navo alehem ba'adam shkocho b'peh. We too will come at him with his own, we're going to fight fire with fire. We're going to come at him with someone whose power is in his mouth. Because they saw that the success of Klal Yisrael was only through tefillah. Which the whole thing, the whole power of tefillah only comes through emes. Bilam, and they desired to bring Bilam, whose entire power is a polar opposite, but it was still with the peh, still with the mouth. He was always looking with an evil eye. In order to be able to find any type of blemish or lacking, if there was something wrong, Bilam was going to find it. And he would conclude with his mouth. And he'd finish it off with his filthy, impure mouth for the bad. Until he had the power to curse and to damage, God forbid. But when he saw those doorways, those openings, that they were one was not facing the other, he realized, it's not that he just thought of it, he realized that his approach was not going to work. Because Hashem works in a midah keneged midah kind of way. In other words, if they had a pagam with their eyes, through, God forbid, looking into each other's doorways and windows, then that would give an opening to Bilam to do the same thing. In other words, to exploit that blemish in them by then attacking them with the evil eye and their power of tefillah. But since he realized that they don't have a pagam in hezek re'iyah, with their eyes, and they don't have a pagam in their tefillah, he realized he was out of luck, that his method would not work against them, that they would be impervious to what he was going to try to do. So Teresa asked, why did the nations of the world get Bilam and the Jewish people Moshe? Would we have become better if we had a different person? You mean if we had had a different person than Moshe Rabbeinu? I don't know if we would have done better. I don't think we would have, because there would never have been anybody as wonderful and great a leader as Moshe Rabbeinu. The reason why the nations of the world got Bilam is so that ultimately they shouldn't have a complaint against Hashem. Hashem, those Jews, they became something really special because they had Moshe Rabbeinu. We didn't become somebody special because we had no prophet on our side. So Hashem said, okay, fine, I'll give you a prophet. His name will be Bilam. He has access to all the same things, but let's see what you do with it. One of the things we're going to be discussing in the next halacha is the right way to go about something and the wrong way to go about doing something. Just as an introduction to that, parenthetically to where we are now, a person could always, or many times, not always, but many times accomplish a goal. But the question has to be asked, at what price? And when we're learning what we're learning here, we're acutely aware of the spiritual component of things. So a person can do something and on the outside, in the physical realm, appear successful at what he's accomplished or what he's trying to do. But in the meantime, his spiritual world is crumbling because he's going about it the wrong way. We're going to discuss that in the next halach. However, this is the case with Bilam. Bilam had access to practically the same level Yedias Hashem that Moshe Rabbeinu had, but he came about it in the wrong way. He was not a worthy person to receive it, and as a result of that, anything he did receive, he used as a vehicle to curse and destroy rather than to bless and to build. Therein lies the difference in Moshe Rabbeinu and Bilam, and I don't think we could have ever done any better than Moshe Rabbeinu. Because it's well known that the main stronghold, the main grasp of the Sitra Achra, the Sitra Achra literally means the other side, but it's talking about all the wrong forces spiritually speaking. Shu machlokas is Sitra Achra, it's the machlokas, the disputes, from a machlokas sheben Yisrael ba'atzma. That comes from the machlokas within Klal Yisrael itself. If we wouldn't have machlokas, then the Sitra Achra would not have machlokas either. But the only reason why the Sitra Achra, that the negative spiritual powers of the world have any power to them, is because essentially when we unfortunately do something wrong, when we do the wrong thing, then we actually empower those, just like we empower the malachim to give life to the world. When we, God forbid, do the wrong thing, we could wind up contributing to that area. I'm not pointing to any particular person or thinking about any particular person. A person shouldn't think that they're solely responsible for anything. God forbid. It's merely instructive to help us to understand that we need to be careful as we can be, to not look at other people in a judgmental way, and to understand that it feels like we need to be judgmental. Here's, I think, that one of the beautiful things about what Rav Nosson is teaching us is he's saying it feels natural to be judgmental. And the reason why, he explains, is because you're only looking through a chalon. But be careful. If you know that it's only a chalon, then you can actually stop yourself from being judgmental when you look at another person. Okay, one more second. Our last slide for this halacha. Each one's looking at his friend for bad. Because there's no good in his eyes in the truth of his friend. Meaning, from his perspective of his own chalon, he's not identifying that truth which lies within his friend, even though his friend is fine. Misham, and because of that nuance, Misham nisaches hasitra acha. That's when the sitra acha can grab onto that. Lahachnis ayin ra, to introduce the ayin ra, the evil eye, so to speak. Chas v'shalom, God forbid, ulahazik chalila, and to, God forbid, create damage. Yankel asks, whenever we speak to our fellow Yidden or Yehudim, it is said that words that come from the heart will enter the heart of another. Is this correct? Yes. Absolutely. You'll have to send me another text to understand exactly the correlation that you're trying to introduce here. In the meantime, we'll go on just a little bit more. And therefore, when Bilam saw that the doorways don't face one to the other, and one person is not looking at the emes of his friend, and he has no ayin ra with regard to his friend. He's got no jealousy. He's got no enmity. He's got no judgment. then Bilam himself had no strength to curse them, because his strength would only come from a link in the chain that exists within Klal Yisrael. They, by having unity, by not looking, by not being judgmental, and having unity and not machlokas, they totally took him out of the picture. Now Cain, and therefore in his hapech lebracha, it had to turn into a blessing. And he said, "Ma tovo alecha Yaakov, how great are your tents? How beautiful and good are your tents, Yaakov? Mishkanasecha Yisrael, your dwelling places, Yisrael." Rashi says, Rashi explains, Sham over there, Al Shira, She'em Pischem B'chavarim, with regard to the fact that Bilam saw that their doorways were not facing one to the other. This is what Rashi explains. Sham over there, Davar Acher, how goodly are your tents? How good are your tents? Ohel Shiloh, that it also refers to Ohel Shiloh. Ohel Shiloh is the base of Mikdash. Ubeis Olamim She'em Bechinas Beis HaTfilah. This is the Beis Olamim, the house of prayer. So the two explanations that Rashi brings is that literally that he saw that the doorways were not facing one to the other, and that's what took him out of the picture. And the second explanation that Rashi brings is that he was able to see the base of Mikdash when he looked at them. He was able to see the essence of what it takes to have the base of Mikdash. Ki beisi beis tefillah yikare v'chol ha'amim. Because my house is a house of prayer for all. Ki hako echad ki al yedei she'em pischeihem mukavanim ve'em pogmim be'emes. Because each one, ki al yedei she'em pischeihem mukavanim, since their doorways were not facing one to the other, ve'em pogmim be'emes, and they had no pagam in emes, they had no pagam, they had no blemish with regard to their truth, because they didn't have, they weren't looking for ways to misuse, in a certain sense, their chalon, their perspective by looking at other people. Through this, they were able to daven. And that brings us back to what we said before about when a person davens and is surrounded by darkness and confusing thoughts and distracting thoughts and emotions. How do we find those doorways? We turn on a light. What's the light? Bring Hashem into the picture. How do we bring Hashem into the picture? Through emes, through truth. Because their doorways did not face one to the other, they had access to emes because they were not busy telling lies about each other and creating machlokas. And through that, they were able to bring Hashem into them, into their lives, and to daven properly. This is what Bilam was able to see. And this is what's reminiscent of the Beis HaMikdash, because the Beis HaMikdash is all about tefillah and davening to Hashem, as well as korbanos. And this is what I mentioned about Yaakov early when we first began. That when Yaakov left Beersheva, and he went to Haran, Yelech Yaakov me Beersheva Yelech Haran, right? It says that the Yifka b'Makom, he came to the place. He came to the Makom HaMikdash. Rashi tells us there he came to the base HaMikdash and he davened. Shezeh Kedushas Ohalim u'Mishkanos Yisrael. This is the holy tents. There's some notes there on the bottom that I wrote. The Mishkan, even in a destroyed state, serves as a mashkon, collateral. The word Mishkan and mashkon means like a collateral or a mortgage. Mishkan is a dwelling place. It's the same shoresh, mem shin chaf nun. So even in a destroyed state, the notion of a Mishkan is for us a mashkon. It's a collateral. It's our guarantee that we're going to be able to be reunited in Yerushalayim with a Beis HaMikdash, with Hashem. The Iker Hu Kedushas HaBeis HaMikdash, Shesham Miskabtzin Kol HaShnei Maser Shvatim. And the main thing of the holiness of the Beis HaMikdash is it's because it's there that came together, that coalesced all of the 12 Shvatim. Remember, Yaakov embodies the 12 Shvatim. And he slept in that place, and then he davened in that place, he slept in that place, he had the dream in that place, the sulam. He put the stone on, first he put the stones around his head, 12 stones. Then he slept on it. It became one stone. Yaakov embodies tefillah. That's what he did in that place. Kol hashtem esrei nischos hatefillah, and the 12 different kinds of tefillah. Ki derech sham ma'ala hatzadik, because it's through there, meaning through the Beis Hamikdash, that the tzaddik, the righteous person, is able to elevate the tefillos of Klal Yisrael, shebechinas Even Tov, because this tzaddik, is coming with an entirely different spiritual mechanism of truth. His is not a chalon, rather it's an Even. He's connected, it's self-generating. So he's able to actually understand. He can actually look at someone else and say, that person's doing the right thing, that person's doing the wrong thing. I understand what this person is praying for, and I'm going to know exactly where his tefillos should go. And he's able to take all of the tefillos of Klal Yisrael and make sure that each one is funneled through the appropriate channels and gateway to get where it's supposed to go, so to be most potent. Hiderach Shamala HaTzadik, this is the way that the tzaddik is able to elevate. Shubechinas Even Tov, the tzaddik is the Even Tov, as Kol HaTfilah Shel Yisrael, all the prayers of Klal Yisrael. Shein Bebechinas Chalon, they represent the idea of a chalon, as we've said many times. Ayidei Nikudas HaEmes, their perspective of emes is a chalon. It's good, but it's limited. Shemotzi Ma'atfilah, Ba'atfilah Shel Kol Echad, that comes out of the prayers of each and every person. This is the exact opposite of the damage that could come from one person looking at his other friend, at his friend. So when we have those openings where we could be likely, God forbid, to do the wrong thing by looking at someone else's life and actions. Now, and therefore, both of these explanations are really part and parcel the same explanation, which luyim zeh bazeh, and one is dependent on the other. I just want to finish the halacha, and then I'll take a look at some of the comments down below in a minute. That because since their doorways were not facing, their openings were not facing one to the other, and they had no blemish with regard to the truth. She tikkun tefillah, which is the tikkun of tefillah, it's the epitome of tefillah. We can daven and say what we're saying with truth, then we've hit a home run. This is what even Bilam was able to recognize as a quality in Klal Yisrael. Shem Adiros Ba'abatim, they were the dwellings and the houses, Shel Yisrael, of Klal Yisrael. It was through this itself. How good are your tents and your dwelling places? And that's similar to our shuls, or bate midrashos, and our bate medrash, where we go to learn. Shel Yisrael, Klal Yisrael. So that's what Reb Nassim is saying, that both Rashi's answers are two aspects of the same mechanism. By keeping our eyes to ourselves and not having a pagam and emes as a result of that, which a pagam and emes can result from not keeping our eyes to ourselves, because it would be very challenging for us to look with a chalon and see what's really going on. We are not able to do that. So when we don't look to begin with, what we do is we preserve our ability to connect to emes. When we preserve that ability, it's almost like, don't look, not because you almost don't want to hurt the other guy. I know that's the context that we're talking about here. We don't want to create damage in the other guy. But I'll add another dimension maybe. Don't look because you don't want to hurt yourself. Because by looking at somebody else and then realizing, oh, hey, what is he doing? You're really creating a little bit of a pagam in yourself, in your own emes. You don't want that. Because then what happens is it's hard to daven. If you preserve that emes, and then you go to daven, your davening will be so much more powerful, meaningful. The ikaram of Beis Hamikdash. So we said that these Mishkanos and Ahalos that Bilam noticed in Klal Yisrael, that's their homes, but it also, since it's talking about emes, and since it's talking about tefillah, that hints to the idea that they were also talking about the shuls and the base medrash, and we're talking about, by extension, the base of Mikdash itself, the Karam base of Mikdash, and the main and the ikar, the main thing here is like all the shuls in the base and the Bate Medrash, they're all, I mean, they're all little replicas in a spiritual way of the base of Mikdash. Shem Bate Hatfila, which are houses of prayer, houses of worship. Shal Yisrael, Klal Yisrael. Shetikunam al Yedei Ha'emes. That they're tikkun. In other words, I'll translate tikkunam in this context as being the way to take advantage of them, the way to utilize them properly, the way to benefit most significantly from them is through the power of emes. Please, please never compromise your integrity, your emes. And Reb Nosson says, no matter what level you're on, even if you have compromised your level of integrity in the past, whatever you can say with emes, even one word, if it can come with through emes, please Hashem, I want to do tshuva. Please Hashem, please help me. Whatever you can say, even one word with emes, that will be your foothold into then being able to grow and take your tefillah further and further. Actually, we're gonna, since it's almost time, we're gonna stop here. I'm not gonna start the other halacha tonight, which is just fine. I really wanted to do that quick review. I knew it took about 15 minutes, but I wanted any newcomers to be able to get on board, and I wanted any regulars to just have a quick overview. So I hope you don't mind. But now let's take a look at some of the questions. The reason why I'm reading them is because somebody who's listening just with the audio will not see the question. My son pointed this out to me once. And as a result of that, it'll be frustrating for them to hear a response from me or a discussion about the topic without even understanding or hearing the underlying comment or question. So Michael writes, whenever we speak to our fellow, we already addressed that one. And we said, especially in the form of a correction. Okay, so in other words, when something comes from the heart and it enters the heart, it's important that it go through that mechanism, especially if it's in the form of a correction. I presume that's what you're saying. That would be absolutely true. And no one likes to be lectured by an insincere person. That's for sure. Yehuda writes, is that the same idea of a Amalek who were able to attack Bnei Israel by attacking the stragglers? Attacking Klal Yisrael by attacking the stragglers. You mean what were the stragglers doing out there straggling? That was Amalek's foothold into Klal Yisrael. If you want to add more to that question, Yehuda, feel free. I just didn't understand fully what your question is. Thank you, Teresa. I'm not a rabbi. I'm just a regular Jew, trying my best. I appreciate the accolade, but it's not deserved. It's not humility. I don't have smicha. I'm not a rabbi. But thank you, Rabbi, for having me in your class. I am not a Jew. I'm a Noahide since 1991, since the internet came to Malaysia. I am studying under Orthodox rabbis from Breslov, Chabad, Aish.com, etc. Wonderful, Teresa. Welcome to our class. I hope you benefited. And, one of the wonderful things about Yiddishkeit and Torah is that all nations of the world still have a connection with Hashem and still have the opportunity to learn about Emunah, about faith, and to connect to Hashem. And when it says that Klal Yisrael is an or l'goyim, a light unto the nations, what are we talking about? We're not talking about that Jews sometimes win the Nobel Prize for this, that, or the other thing. No, we're talking about bringing kedusha, bringing holiness to the world. So I appreciate you coming and sharing ideas, especially quoting the Mishnah from Pirkei Avos. But all are welcome and able to grow with all of us. Yehuda, if you're still out there, I don't know if you wanted to add more about, let's see. Oh, here we go. In other words, this is Yehuda's question about Amalek. In other words, the stragglers who were straggling in emunah / davening, and that was Amalek's foothold. Amalek being the anti-emunah, Bilam tried to get a foothold the same way. Interesting connection. I would say yes. Could very well be, Yehuda. Excellent correlation. I know you like the word correlation. Excellent correlation between Bilam and Amalek. It's a very, very important spiritual rule, axiom, that the idea that we learned from Ibn Nassim tonight, that a bad force cannot take hold in an otherwise good force unless that good force gives that bad force some foothold. That's very, very empowering and instructive, because what could happen then is the person can choose to say, I don't want to give that away. I don't want to give it away. I don't want to give that other aspect a foothold. And I guess it applies to all sorts of bad forces, Amalek, the Sitra Achra, the Yetzer Hara. If we do our best to uphold the principles of the Torah and the values of the Torah, then all of these other distractions and Yitzrei Hara, etc., they become superfluous. They don't have any room. We don't have any room for them in our lives, in our minds. So I hope that you're able to take these concepts into your week, into your lives, into your families, your friends, your communities, even into your heart. That's sometimes the furthest place to try to introduce, change and positive thoughts like this. But personally, I just found that it permeated everything I was experiencing. I look forward to next week, God willing, where we're going to be starting a new halacha, and I wish everybody a good Shabbos, and thank you very, very much for joining me. I appreciated having your company, your input, and Hatzlacha in implementing our lesson from tonight. All the best and a good Shabbos. Good Shabbos, Pamela. Good Shabbos, Yehuda. Teresa, you're welcome. And good luck on your spiritual journey. You're welcome to join us again. All the best, everybody. Good Shabbos. Shabbos, Bero.